Hey, I'm Bill.
And I'm Ned.
Hey, and this is Let's Talk Classic Rock. And today, what me and Ned are going to be doing is we're going to be reviewing a Cheap Trick concert. And this was a concert that was recorded in 1977 at the Mocambo Lounge in Toronto, Canada. And this is a concert that was broadcast live on FM radio.
Hey, Bill.
What, Ned?
You know who else played at the Mocambo?
Who else played at the Mocambo, man?
April Wine played at the Mocambo.
All right. Yeah, Ned is a big April Wine fan. You know, you always got to throw that in there somewhere where he can.
Oh, hey, they need
I
the
hope the band has paid you for that, Ned. So.
They're paying me in Canadian money. It's fine.
Okay. All right. So this particular concert was a concert that was broadcast. Cheap Trick had 2 albums out at that time. Their debut album, Cheap Trick, which didn't even crack the top 200, and it also the next album was In Color, which made it to Ned
73 on the top 100.
So it was an improvement, but Cheap Trick at this point, they didn't have a hit yet, so they were still a struggling band, still trying to kind of make it for themselves on the road, kind of make a name for themselves. Okay, so we chose this concert because it was an early concert. They were still kind of not unknown yet, but they weren't by any means like a household name. So, okay. So, and what we're going to do, we're going to post this then so other people can listen to this as well, right?
Yes, it's going to be on the Let's Talk Classic Rock channel in full. And on the Classic Rock Live channel, it'll have a little short introduction with a link to the main website.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to listen to this after our review, if you're a Cheap Trick fan, and maybe this is something you haven't listened to yet, and you think you may want to listen to it, you can go to it. Or if you are just slightly familiar with Cheap Trick and you think you like our review of the concert and you want to go listen to it afterwards, it'll be there for you. Okay. So
great.
On to the review, right?
Sounds good.
And we're off. Okay, the first song, the opening song, the intro is "Hello There," and if you're a Cheap Trick fan, you know the song. This is a song that was on their In Color album, and after the In Color album came out, this was pretty much their song. This is how they would start a concert and also end a concert. If you have the Live at Budokan album, you'll know this as well. This is kind of Cheap Trick strapping on their guitars, turning it up really loud, saying, "Hey, we're gonna blow the doors off the Mocambo. We're Cheap Trick, and and we're here." And this is a great opener for Cheap Trick, and they've used it over the years. And every time I've seen them, they've opened with this song, and it's just it's kind of a great song because you're kind of waiting and those power chords start rolling in. You've got the guitar that rolls in first, and you've got the bass, and then you've got the drums, and then Robin kicks in. And it just kind of lets you know Cheap Trick are here, and we're gonna rock. So, Ned, any thoughts on the song?
Yeah, I've seen Cheap Trick many times in the 70s and 80s, and the one thing I always remember when you're out in the crowd or at the concert, just having a beer and stuff, and once you hear the beginning of the song start, you're set. You're ready for a good concert. Okay, get your attention focused to the stage. Set your beer down and get ready to start having a good time because this is like, it always brings me back to like Elvis and C.C. Ryder. Once you hear 2001 Space Odyssey and C.C. Ryder playing for Elvis, it's ready to go. And the same thing for Cheap Trick. And like I said, the only concerts I've ever seen with Cheap Trick, they always opened with the song. So great memories with the song and seeing them in concert.
Yep, absolutely. And they just open the doors and they tear it off with this one. I dug it.
Yep.
Okay, the second song was Come On, Come On, and this is a song that came off of Cheap Trick's second album, In Color. And this is a good example of what Rick Nielsen does. Rick Nielsen, right from the start, had a reputation as just being a very, very good songwriter. This is what he wanted to be. The majority of the stuff on the first few albums was written by Nielsen almost entirely. And Nielsen had this knack for writing these kind of Beatlesque songs. And this is a good example of one of them. The thing that's deceiving about Cheap Trick, though, is that if you ever see Cheap Trick in concert, Cheap Trick play very loud. So a lot of the stuff that you hear on the radio is toned down a little bit. Epic, the recording label always kind of worked hard at making Cheap Trick very radio friendly. So when you heard Cheap Trick on the radio, you had kind of like a nice kind of poppy sound, but in concert, they turned it up as loud as the Who. This was a band that, when they got discovered, they were discovered by Jack Douglas, who went on to produce Aerosmith and to produce Cheap Trick's first album. So, first and foremost, this is a loud band, and this is the way they like to play. So if you have the studio version, you've got this great pop song, very Beatlesque, but this particular version in concert is the guitars are turned up and it's played pretty loud. So, Ned, thoughts on this one?
When I first listened to this entire concert from beginning to end, this is the one song that grabbed me right away. I don't know if it's me liking that type of music back in the 70s, early 80s, power ballad kind of sound. I mean, the rhythm is great. The chorus is excellent. I mean, it's so easy to sing along with right at the first listening. And that's the thing that kind of caught me right away. And I'm like, was this song ever released? Because it was such a great song. And if it wasn't, it was such a missed opportunity because, like I said, it was a great song. I thoroughly enjoyed their performance on this. I think it's like one of the best performances of the show.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. You know what? This was never released as a single, and I think it's one of the standout tracks on the In Color album. So I was kind of shocked as well that this one didn't get pushed for radio airplay because it's so catchy. So.
Right.
Okay, on to the next. Okay, the next song is from Cheap Trick's first album, Cheap Trick, and this is a song called "Hello Kitties." This happens to be one of Bunny Carlos's favorite songs to perform. This is actually one of my favorite Cheap Trick songs. It's a straight on out rocker, like in the style of the Who. I love this song. I can't imagine anybody else not liking this song. In fact, Ned, I would almost think that somebody would have to be from another planet, to not like the song. So this is a great song, and in my opinion, thematically, this is a great song because basically what the song is about is it's Cheap Trick's telling you, okay, look, you got school, you've got work, you've got your religion, you've got your television you're going to sit down in front of every night. Basically, you're set up for a life of conformity. Okay, so don't take school too seriously. Get out there and have some fun because this is the point of life where you can still do that. So yeah, this one I think the live version is exceptional, as is the studio version. So Ned, thoughts on this one?
My thoughts is I must be from a different planet because I don't know if we're listening to the same song, but the one thing I can say, the performance of it was really good. I enjoyed the performance of it. Getting to the lyrics of the actual song, I really didn't care for it. It was kind of borderline annoying to me, especially like the verse, "Hello Kitties." I mean, to me, it comes out as "Hello Kitty." And once you start hearing Hello Kitty over and over, it sticks in your head. So now I still hear Hello Kitty every time I hear the song. So
you set yourself up for that, my friend.
I know. But that said, I mean, the performance was great. I mean, there's a lot of energy in the performance. Robin's voice was great. I mean, the drumming from Bunny Carlos was exceptional. Rick Nielsen, it was just a good song, great performance, but I really don't care for the song too much.
Yep, and that's okay. It's good to have different musical tastes and to kind of bounce stuff back and forth. Not everything is for everybody. Okay.
Right.
All right, on to the next. Okay, the next song is "Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace," and this is a song that was also on Cheap Trick's first album, and this is a song that's a cover. Okay, so I'm going to ask Ned here. Ned, what's our opinion on cover songs, just in general? If you're going to do a cover song.
Right. If you're going to do a cover song, make it your own. Do not do an exact replication of the original because you don't make it your song then. And to me, that's where many people lack when they do a cover song.
Yeah. If you're gonna do somebody else's song, otherwise you're just you're doing cover band stuff, like just kind of anything. You could go to any bar and anywhere in America and see a cover band at any point. If you're an established artist and you're going to go out there and you're going to do somebody else's song, kind of make it your own. Okay. So with that being said, this actually isn't a bad cover, but it's very much like the Terry Reid song. So if you don't know the Terry Reid song, you'll actually like this song. It's good. It's a good performance. It's a good live performance, but I don't think it's anything. It was never a Cheap Trick song that really like blew me away. And in concert, I would much rather hear like a Rick Nielsen original. To be quite honest. So,
right.
Ned, thoughts?
Right. I mean, yeah, this was written by Terry Reid. And the one thing once I learned when I was doing some research on this was that Robert Plant really idolized or appreciated Terry Reid's voice. And he said he's like one of the best voices and influences of that time. And also, Jimmy Page actually credited Terry Reid for him and Robert Plant getting together. So there's a really good, Led Zeppelin connection with Terry Reid and the power of Cheap Trick, which is great. So I like that. The studio version is good, not as exciting as the live version. But Terry Reid's version had a little bit of organ in it, which made it a little bit different. But like you said, if you're going to make a cover, make it your own. The only exception I have of that is Cheap Trick does an incredible remake of Beatles songs. Sgt. Pepper, they do it pretty much note to note for the Beatles, and I appreciate that because you can't be perfection. You can't rearrange them and do them justice. So I just want to make an exception. Sgt. Pepper, they can do it exactly like the Beatles, and I appreciate it. I love it.
Yeah. Cheap Trick did a series of concerts in Las Vegas where they did the Sgt. Pepper album in its entirety from start to finish. Yeah, and it's a great concert, just like Ned says. If it's one you're not familiar with, if it's a Cheap Trick one you don't really know, it's one you should check out. It's great. It's great. So
yep, I agree.
Okay. All right. On to the next. Okay, so the next, what we're going to do is we're going to group the next three songs together, but we're going to talk about each three individually. Okay, the next three are Big Eyes, Southern Girls, and Down, and all three of these come from the Cheap Trick album In Color, which was their second album. And the reason I grouped all three of these together is because these three, like Come On, these are three really good examples of what Nielsen does best in writing Beatlesque ballads. That on the album they were a little bit softer, but in concert they've got a little bit more power to them. And all three are very interesting, all different subject matter. First you have Big Eyes, which is I don't know, I guess it's about superficial attraction. He talks about being attracted to her eyes. He had everything else about her. He could really care less. But it's got kind of a good driving beat to it. It's a song I really like, one of my favorite Cheap Trick songs. Ned, any interest in that?
I like the song. I wish it would have had better lyrics to it. To me, it was very basic and repetitive. Coming over, saying Big Eyes over and over and over. To me, it kind of came off as like a really angry song. And I think it'd be a great song for like a backdrop for a scary, killing slasher type of movie. To me, it had that type of energy. But I mean, the performance was great. Again, excellent performance. The song is questionable.
Yeah, I really like it a lot, and I think it shows kind of like the sinister side to Nielsen. Again, they're this poppy band, they've got this kind of cutesy image, and here they can write a song just about superficial attraction, which I thought was really interesting. Song I really liked. And the next song was Southern Girls. Why don't you start this one? You know a little bit more about this one than I do. This one this is one. Ned kind of hipped me to something on this that I didn't know. Why don't you start this one off?
Yeah, I mean the thing about this is really good. I enjoyed it. I really didn't know what it was about. After some research, and they were saying something about Canadian prostitutes and all that stuff. At first, I thought it would be like a cover of kind of a response song to California Girls, which came out earlier around that time frame. But then around the same time, Triumph came out with a song called American Girls. So there must be something at that time frame in the late 70s to have California Girls, Southern Girls, and American Girls. So I mean, it was good, a very catchy pop song, and I enjoyed the performance. How about you, Bill?
Yeah. I guess, well, apparently from what I found out then was that the song was written about their Southern Canadian fans, the female fans, and they couldn't really call the song Southern Canadian Girls. It just didn't sound right, so we just went with Southern Girls. But no, I like the song. I think it's a great song.
Yeah.
All right, and then the next song on the list is it's a real sinister one called Downed. This is one of my favorites now, and just the term downed itself, downed, I guess in the context of the song is almost like an animal. Okay, when an animal is downed, basically it can't go on its feet for very much longer, or it's just waiting to be picked off. And this is kind of a topic that's been kind of come up in a lot of Cheap Trick songs, like that of suicide, and just kind of being on the edge and kind of wondering what you're going to do next. But almost put to almost like a power ballad feel, which makes it just like a really strange song. Great song, great song. So,
Right.
in my opinion. So, Ned, opinion on that?
Yeah, you kind of hit right on it. To me, this was like an early version of a 80s power ballad. And I'm a big fan of the 80s power ballads. I mean, you got REO and Styx and Whitesnake. I mean, there was some great song, Poison. They all had great power ballads. And when I heard this, I mean, the power of it and the, anger, I was like, wow, this is a great song. And the heavy guitar. I think it was great. I mean, this was another one. If they could release this as a single, it would give a
Yeah.
different vision of how Cheap Trick is coming, because it's pretty much different from a lot of the other songs.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I really loved this performance.
Yeah.
And it's a great song. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I dig it. And again, it's got that kind of sinister edge that Nielsen is kind of known for. Like even on their first album, they've got a song called "The Ballad of TV Violence," which was actually the original title of the song was "The Ballad of Richard Speck." And then Epic made them kind of go back and say, "Nah, we kind of can't do that. We need to change that a little bit." So, so even Cheap Trick, even though they're known for a lot of these, stuff like "The Flame" and "I Want You to Want Me," they've got a little bit of a sinister edge to them. So on to the next. Okay, the next song in the show is "Loser." And "Loser" was a kind of was a popular concert staple back then when they were touring for In Color. They played it a lot in concert, and they were probably going to record it at some point, but they just never really did. So for a Cheap Trick fan, this is probably one of my favorites because this is one, it hasn't been overexposed. You haven't heard it a bunch. They recorded a demo of it. It's available out there, but they never actually did a solid studio performance. And it's kind of unfortunate because it's got the same kind of like heavy metal groove to it that was so successful on Gonna Raise Hell off of the Dream Police album. So for me, this is probably one of the highlights of the show for me was this one, just because you don't hear it that often. And it's a great performance, and I think Robin Zander sounds fantastic on this one. So, Ned?
This was another song that took me as this could be a great soundtrack to another killer movie. I mean, the raw energy in the song. I mean,
Yeah.
the guitar and the drums and the bass, everything. To me, it was just incredible. I just love the feeling of this performance. And the one thing that I don't know if you ever caught, I mean, this is me. I mean, if you would add the Vex Continental Combo organ, which they did in the Doors music, right?
Yeah.
I would hear, to me, if you add Jim Morrison to this vocal, this would be, to
Yeah.
me, this would be a Doors song. The
Yeah.
screaming and the yelling and it gives me the feeling of Roadhouse Blues. So I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, maybe just me, but I mean, I love it, but it brought me back to that point of the Doors type of music that I listened to, earlier in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally pick up on that because the Doors were another sinister band, and that was the kind of the edge of this particular song had. So I can agree with you on that. So
Yeah. This one had, to me, this had the biggest edge to any other song. It was just like in your face power.
yeah,
And I would have loved to see that in concert live. Because I don't know, through all the concerts I've seen, I don't know if I've seen or heard this performance like this before. And I just loved it.
yeah, yep, I agree with you. I agree. Okay, the next song they did was "Ain't That a Shame." So the one thing that me and Ned agree on cover versions is that we talked about this earlier, if you're going to do a cover version, you should put your own stamp on it and kind of make it your own. Okay, Ned, how did they do on this one? Did they succeed?
Wow. Who's Fats Domino? Yeah. When I hear, even though Fats Domino recorded this in 1955, and he did a great job. I mean, for the time frame in 55, that's the type of music that's out there. But
Yeah.
when Cheap Trick made it their own for this performance, wow. Whenever I hear the song, if anybody else singing it, I always go back to Cheap Trick because they made it their own. That's just like thinking of like My Way, Frank Sinatra, My Way. Everybody said, he's the one who did it. But when I hear Elvis sing My Way, I always think Elvis did it better. And for same thing for Ain't That a Shame, Cheap Trick blew away Chuck Berry. It's just, to me, it's classic rock and roll. Robin's vocals were spot on. it would, to me, this is the this is my Cheap Trick song. Of all their songs, when I hear this one, I'm in the mood to have a good time.
Yeah, this is one. It's not an original song, but it's one that's like, man, it almost feels like it is. They just pretty much stole this one from Pat Samino, and no disrespect to Fats. I mean, Fats did a great version, but when Ned and I were younger and we were growing up, I mean, this was all over WLS, the radio, all the time. I mean, you got this song beat into your head, and it's great. It starts off with this great, Bunny Carlos gets to show off a little bit on the drums at the beginning of the song, and this version, what's on this particular concert recording, I think is just as good as the one that's on at Budokan, where they had the hit single off of. So
Right.
I give this one a big thumbs up on this one, man.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's great. And the thing about the thing about it, when you mentioned it being a single, that actually went to number 35 on the Billboard 100, and that was their first hit, which is great.
Yeah. All right, on to the next. Okay, the next song, Please Mrs. Henry, is actually a cover of a cover. Okay. Yeah, I'm a Bob Dylan fan, so I knew the original version off of Bob Dylan's Basement tapes, but I was unfamiliar with the other version, which Ned kind of hipped me to. So, Ned, why don't you start this one off, since you know a little bit about that?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I did some research on it because I heard Cheap Trick's version. And then I kind of heard, about that. I looked into who wrote it, and I heard Bob Dylan's version, and I'm like, there's a big gap there. And then I did a little bit more research, and I found out Manfred Mann also did a version. So after reviewing all three versions of the song, it sounds like Bob Dylan did his, Manfred Mann changed the arrangement, and then Cheap Trick followed up and did their version of the Manfred Mann version. And I think it was very good. I mean, even though I know you love Bob Dylan, and he's right now over your left shoulder looking at me in the picture on the wall. I'm not a big fan of Bob Dylan at all.
Yeah.
And Manfred Mann, I prefer that. I think they did a good job. But for this performance, I really think it was more of a 3-minute intro for Rick Nielsen to play his guitar, and then all Robin would say, "I'm down on my knees, I ain't got a dime," over and over and over. And I wish they did more justice to it and actually played the song. And I think I would appreciate it more. But this is probably a filler song, like just to bring in the, Rick Nielsen as a guitar. But, but it's not bad. Not bad. What do you think?
It's not bad. It's kind of an abbreviated version. They've done a better version of this. I have they've got a box set out that's called Sex America and Cheap Trick, where they have a full version of this. They did live at the Whiskey A Go Go in '77, and it's an excellent version, excellent start to finish, all the lyrics. And the snippet that you get on here for this show, I mean, it's not complete. I mean, you don't get all the lyrics. The band gets to show off a little bit here, but it's not bad. But it's nothing, it's nothing groundbreaking. At this point, I'd probably go up and probably grab a beer at the bar or something. So not bad, but not definitely not a standout in this set. So all right. Okay, the next song is He's a Whore, which came off the first album, Cheap Trick. And for me personally, this was like the hit single that never really was. I think this is the catchiest song off the first album. I was surprised this wasn't released as a single at some point, but with the lyrics, I can kind of understand why. But this is also, another example of Rick Nielsen's kind of interesting songwriting, where it sounds misogynistic, but it's really not. It kind of takes the whore, the character, and kind of places it on the man more than anything. So it's not really misogynistic. It's just kind of tongue in cheek. It's kind of a fun song, very Ramones-like. Thing just kind of chugs along like a monster. I love it. And one of my favorite Cheap Trick songs of all time. So, and if you're a fan of this song, you'll also be a fan of this live version, because the live version just totally rips. If you're not, then you won't. Ned, thoughts?
If I was at this concert and this song came on, I'd go get my beer at that point. I mean, to me, it's a very basic. The lyrics are so basic to me, and I kind of the way I think about it is, this was off the first album. Rick Nielsen was learning. He wasn't, fully matured as a songwriter. And that's how I kind of take it. I might be totally wrong, but that's fine. But I don't like the lyrics. The arrangement to me was very basic. And to me, the studio version, the chorus was atrocious. It was painful. It was like, cats and claws and chalkboards. It was really bad.
Oh. All right, all right, all right, man. We're gonna totally disagree on this one, man. So
Right,
that's okay, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. So
right.
on to the next. Oh no, you got something else?
No, I was just saying, this was never released as a 45, and I probably put it toward the name, because that wasn't really a name that could be put out there in the 70s.
Yeah.
But with as much as you appreciate it, you would probably, I'm sure you would say, why wasn't this released? But to me, I'm like, I'm glad it wasn't released as a 45.
I think it smokes. I think it's a great song. But, okay, on to the next. On to the next. On to the next. Okay, the next to the last song they did was a cover by a band called The Move, which it's called Down on the Bay. Now this is a song that Cheap Trick never recorded, but Cheap Trick, Rick Nielsen is a big fan of Roy Wood from The Move. And just a little known fact, a lot of people know this, some people don't. The Move actually evolved into Electric Light Orchestra. There was three members of The Move, Bev Bevan, Jeff Lynne, and Roy Wood. Electric Light Orchestra started as a side project and then eventually overtook The Move. So Rick Nielsen was a big fan of Roy Wood, so he's recorded they've done five Roy Wood songs through the course of their career. So and this particular song is a great song, and it's one that Cheap Trick, they record a lot of covers, and they never did one that appeared on an album. And it's a shame because they just totally rip it up on this song. It's a great version, and again, it doesn't deviate that much farther from what the Move did, in that it's just a lot more powerful. So I enjoy this a lot, especially coming after He's a Whore and then Down on the Bay. These are two straight out rocking songs. So I thought this was great. Ned, thoughts?
With me not knowing anything about the original of the song that you mentioned,
Yeah.
I thought this was a Cheap Trick song, because when I first heard it, I heard Chuck Berry screaming out of the stereo system. This was a full-time rocker, an excellent performance, and I still wonder, why wasn't this released? I don't know if it was because Rick Nielsen didn't write it or whatever, but another missed opportunity on a great song and a great performance that is only out there in these weird bootleg concert that we can listen to, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I agree with this one. I mean, and again, they recorded 5 songs by Roy Wood, but this was not one of them. This was not, and it's a shame because this is probably one of my favorites that they did. So, but on to the next.
Good night now, ladies and gentlemen. Good night now, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, all right. The final show of the evening was Good Night, and Good Night is actually the same song as Hello There. They just kind of bookend the shows again. And if you're a Cheap Trick fan, Hello There, Good Night There, and once those power chords start rolling in, the song is over, or the concert's over rather. So they came in on a bang and they ended on a bang, and I thought it was a great show. So it's a show that if you're a casual fan and you click on the link below and you watch this, I think you're going to be surprised at how loud this show is. But if you're a diehard fan, you're going to be well ready for this. This is a very loud show, and I thought it was excellent. And the thing that I liked the most about this too, Ned, is that this was a hungry band. Again, we talked earlier about how they didn't have a hit at this point. So this was a band that was coming out of the gates full steam. And I thought this was that kind of rock and roll show. It was that kind of rock and roll show where you're going to get sweaty, you're going to drink beer, you're going to be shoulder to shoulder with people, and at the end of the night, you're going to leave with your ears ringing. So, thoughts?
I mean, when I heard this song, I was actually kind of sad because, like I said, being at many Cheap Trick concerts in the 70s, 80s, when I heard this song, I knew the end was there. Bring up Elvis again. When I hear Can't Help Falling in Love at an Elvis concert, the song's over. Enjoy it. Elvis has left the building. And the same thing for Cheap Trick. When you hear the song, you're like, oh man, I love this song, but the concert's over. It's time to go. Yeah. Which is sad, but like I said, looking back on this entire performance, the first time I listened to it, when we started talking about it, it was a very loud concert.
Yeah.
and I didn't really appreciate it that much. But after listening to it like 3-4 times,
Yeah.
I love this concert. It
Yeah.
grew on me. A lot of the performances are so much better than the studio version. I know some people prefer studio music versus live music. Me,
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I
Yeah.
love live music over studio version because the studio versions are full of overdubs and all that kind of stuff, especially these days with auto tune and all that stuff. So I don't really listen to like modern music. But back in the 70s and 80s, I loved the live performances. For some reason, live performances back then were so much better.
Yeah.
I don't know if performers are better back then or were better back then.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were. But I mean,
Yeah.
overall, excellent show, excellent performance. And we saw them. This is right before they, exploded, and it was a great concert.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going to agree with Ned on this, and I know I'll even verify. Ned is a live music guy, and the thing that was so cool about this, the earlier we had just reviewed an Elvis concert like a couple weeks ago, and it was the same thing. No overdubs, just live, and it was just kind of raw. And these performances are both excellent. And the thing that was so cool about we can look at these things objectively now. We're a little bit older, we can kind of sit back and we can listen to these concerts. And the thing that was so cool about Elvis is you had this seasoned performer. You were there to see rock and roll royalty. You had a guy who had this huge collection of hits behind him, who was up there on stage, who was very relaxed and gave a very professional performance. A great performance. And then here we just did Cheap Trick, where you had they had 2 albums out. They were looking to prove themselves, and they were out there. They were just a very, very hungry feral band. So I enjoyed both of these 2 shows that we just did. So
Great.
All right. And that is it. And we'll be doing something else next time. We're not sure. Are we going to do Journey, or are we going to do Triumph, or are we going to do April Wine? Who are we going to do? Now you pick. You pick.
It'll be probably one of those 3. I mean,
Okay.
I know you're not huge fans of either one of those, but I'll pull you into my direction of music as we move.
No. This is what's cool about music, is that now you're a little bit older. We can look at these things objectively, and I enjoy learning about these different things and about different bands. So whichever one you pick, I'm going to be comfortable. I'll be looking forward to it. So
great, sounds good.
All right.
Thanks,
all right,
Bill.
We're out of here. Hey, and if you like us, if you like what we're doing, leave us a comment in the thing below. If you disagree with us on anything, please let us know. And if you agree with us, we would also appreciate it. So we just kind of like to know, what we're doing, and if you guys can give us suggestions, we'd love to elaborate on them. So, and that's it.
Yeah, one thing. Yeah, if you're going to request something, I've got access to thousands and thousands of performances from many artists. So please get into a little more detail. Don't just say I want a Journey song. If you can get down to a year or a date, a specific date that you want to hear, we can do that. So we'll try our best to do your requests. And if me and Bill learn something new from a band that we don't even really listen to, from a comment from someone out there, we'll do it. We have no problem with that.
Absolutely. We enjoy that. So,
right.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
Are we off? All right.
We're done.
Take it easy. Later.